motivators to the Motivate Her Podcast. Today's topic is perfection. Perfection, for me, I'm just speaking for me, has been sometimes a very crippling thing for me. And it has allowed me, because I think sometimes, or many times, I've heard people say, God will give you something really, really big, and then you work toward that. Well, for me, I found that I was working from that. What do you mean by that, Chantanell? So God gave me the vision of the podcast. I wanted the podcast to look like Kirk Franklin's podcast. I wanted it to feel like Kirk Franklin's podcast. But I was not doing it on a Kirk Franklin budget. I was doing it on a Chantanell's budget. And that meant I was buying equipment, trying to find the right space. I wanted all these different things. It was the I in that. And so with the perfection of it, I sort of got lost in it, overwhelmed in it. And then what did I do? I put it to the side. So in the quest for perfection, nothing really got done. And so I want to read to you a couple of different quotes that I found when I was thinking about wanting to talk to everyone about perfectionism, because this really is a thing. And so someone said, I've learned how my own perfection can cripple me. That was Jennifer Nettles. And I felt that way. I felt like striving for perfection in some things, and how I felt like it needed to be so perfect that I was missing some things. I was missing, well, the most important thing is I wasn't doing it. I was trying to make it so perfect that it didn't get done. So there was still nothing happening. I still wasn't producing content. I wasn't holding classes. I wasn't speaking on motivational journal living. I wasn't having conversations. But because I was always in that quest of comparing who I am, what I wanted, where I was going, to what somebody else was, is, or where they were, I got distracted. I got frustrated. I got all of these different isms and schisms about me and about what I should be doing, and nothing got done in the quest of being perfect. And it was saying, many people think of perfectionism as striving to be your best, but it's not about self-improvement. It's about earning the approval and the acceptance of others. That was Miss Brown. Now, here's the thing. Let's have a real conversation. I've said it before. I have been a person who believed that what other people think and what other people expect and who I am as they see me, being just a people pleaser, wanting everybody to be pleased by my actions, to be pleased by what I was doing, coupled with trying to be perfect, made me literally just sit and think about what I could and could not do, what I should and should not be doing. There's this song that I think is Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald says, I must have rehearsed my lines 1,000 times. I am the person who will go over in their mind 1,000 times what I could do, what I should do, that woulda, coulda, shoulda life. But all that was me sitting in the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and there was no doing. There was no producing. There was no good fruit being put out there. And so I found myself, even with this podcast, like recording it on my own, doing all these different things, having this vision of it, and then finding myself like, girl, you haven't done anything. And so another one, however, don't let perfectionism become an excuse for never getting started. That was my excuse of wanting it to be perfect. Comparison is the thief of joy. I believe it, I know it, but I didn't walk in it. And wanting to be perfect, wanting to be pleasing. There's this show out, Be Pleasingly Sweet. I wanted to be all these things to so many people that I wasn't anything for myself. that I have these big goals and dreams and aspirations, and I'm a person who's teaching about vision and having conversations about accomplishing your goals and your dreams and your visions and being in purpose and being in place, and I was nowhere there. So I was a hypocrite to my own goals, to my own dreams, to my own visions, because I was trying to be perfect. I was trying to please everybody, wanting to give people the content that I felt they wanted to see, not what was given to me to put out there. And what happened? Nothing got done. I mean, let's just be real. Nothing got done. Did I write a lot? Absolutely. But the thing about journaling and writing is when you write it down, the goal is that it has to get legs. Either we're going to give it life or we're going to kill it. That's what journaling is. We're either giving something life and taking the steps to get there, or we're killing something so it doesn't stop us from doing something. It's the push and the pull, right? It's the constant war within yourself. But for me, it's always been a war of, am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I worthy enough? Will somebody support me? Will somebody believe in me? And having to get out of that space and say, you know what, Chantanell, you are good enough as you are. If God said go, then go. You know, we don't want to be the people who have that Jonah experience, right? Like God said go over there and you decide to go over here. And the thing that I get about Jonah's story is that Jonah was impacting more than just himself. Jonah was impacting everybody on the boat. So I have to say to myself, am I going to impact somebody, good or bad? But if I do nothing, then I haven't impacted anybody but myself, because now I'm depressed. Now I'm upset. Now I'm reaching for a cookie. Now I'm reaching for all of these different things to compensate for just not doing what I could have done in the moment and in the time. The Bible says he will perfect those things that concern us. But here's the thing. Faith without works is dead. So I know the word. I'm quoting the word, but I'm not living the word. So that makes me a hypocrite. And nobody wants to be a hypocrite to their goals, their dreams, and their visions. Nobody wants to purposefully be that. But I had to come to the reality is that is who I was, because I was trying to be perfect. I was trying to be a perfect size 12. I was trying to do my best to get to that. COVID hit, life started lifing, people passed away, and I didn't do my best. In fact, I was at my worst. And so a lot of things went to the wayside. A lot of excuses were made. But the reality is I had to look at me in that mirror and say, Chantanell, what are you doing? The answer was nothing. You're not doing anything but sitting here pondering. And I realized that the people who take great strides, people who I look at who are business owners, who are doing great things, they take the leap. They do it anyway. They aren't concerned about if it's perfect. They're concerned about just putting it out. They're concerned about doing the right thing. They're concerned about speaking what thus says the Lord to them, and not being caught up in what I'm going to have on. Can I get to that podcast studio? Because money will always be a factor. People may not say it, but I think it is. Money will always be a factor. Time will always be a factor. Finding the right time, making the time. You know, I heard somebody say that real leaders or business owners only function on so many hours of sleep. That's not my testimony. But yeah, but I do think that we can get there. I think we will get there. But it can't be that I'm waiting for this to be perfect, because it will never be perfect. I think there's only one perfect being. That was Christ. Christ was the only thing that was perfect. But still, he had to go through a whole bunch of stuff to get to the promise and the purpose of his being. So for me, it was, okay, Chantanell, what can you control? What can you do in yourself that you control? That's what the supernatural is, right? Is the Lord putting his super on the natural to make it great, to make it wonderful. But I had to stop comparing myself to Kurt Franklin's podcast. I had to. I had to say, Kurt Franklin got Kurt Franklin money. I don't have Kurt Franklin money. Kurt Franklin got Kurt Franklin sponsorships. I don't have that. But what I do have is a voice, a topic, things that need to be discussed, and I need to stop being so stubborn. That's another thing that I think a lot of people who function in wanting to be perfect is being stubborn, is realizing I am where I am, and now I have to be who I am and then work to being who I want to be. Sounds like a lot of words, but it's a real thing. I am a person who struggles with wanting to make everybody happy. I want everybody to be happy, even if it's at my expense. When people call my name, it's I forget what it is, where the little boy says, mommy, 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 mommy. And then he's like, and be like, hi. Okay, you just distracted me. But I'm that person who would get distracted is, what do you want? What's going on? Is there something I can do? What can I do to make you happy? How can I make you happy? Even if that means I'm not happy. What does that mean if I have to go all the way across town to do something for you? And I'm thinking, will you ever do that for me? Yeah.
So you're doing things for people and you're not even sure if that would be reciprocated.
Right. But I want to be seen as perfect. I
Yeah.
want things to be perfect. I wanted my journal line to be perfect. I want my pens to be perfect. I want these bags that I'm working on to be perfect. I want everything to be perfect. I want these cups that I'm working on to be perfect. And I got more dupes than perfection.
So I just think that sometimes that's really good though because that's a real thing for a lot of women.
Yeah.
That is it's a real thing, but I just think that we have to understand and want to trust the process.
Okay, so when you say trust the process, I'm a journaler. I write everything down. I have written the process out and I still don't trust it because I'm wondering by step 3 when somebody says, "Oh, that's not my thing." Well, why is not their thing?
That's not your business.
Right. But it took me a long time to get to that. It took me a long time to get to people may not it's okay for me to show up for others and it's okay for others not to show up for me. It's okay because it also depends on how I feel in that timing. If I do something, the Bible says don't do anything grudgingly or under compulsion. If I applied that, and I believe we could apply almost everything to our lives from the word. If I applied that, I would probably be light years ahead. But I only applied that to giving, financial giving, not giving of yourself, not giving of service. I applied it truly in the realm of when you hear it in church. Don't give, don't do this under grudgingly or under compulsion, which is equated when we give in tithes and offering. But that also means of my time. That also means of my talent that can be applied to anything. So that's the lesson, MotivateHers, that every scripture is not, just because you hear it at a certain time in service, does not mean it cannot be applied to your life. I.e., this do in remembrance of me. A lot of people just use that in communion. No, we should be doing all things in remembrance of the Lord.
Absolutely.
So we got to find the balance in the word. And for me, I was really convoluted in my thinking and my quest to be and be perfect. I was very heartbroken and disappointed I did not get to the number that they told me to get to at weight loss after having gastric bypass surgery. I felt like I wasn't perfect. I felt like I didn't get to that perfect 12. I did not get to a size 12. I wanted to get to a size 12. I did some work to get to a size 12. Then when I went to the nutritionist said, "Well, who told you you would be a size 12?" Well, I saw her, had the same surgery, started the same weight, and her is at a 12. She was like, "That's her."
Right. That's not your journey.
And I'm like, let's write that down. Because maybe she don't know. But, okay. So, yeah, I was a person, and I want to say was because I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be that person who's always striving to be perfect, but failing in the perfecting of it. Like my brother said in his vows, he said to his wife, "I'm not perfect, but I allow the Lord to perfect things in me. Allow me to become perfected." So there's a difference in the two, right? The quest for perfection is like, I'm a person who loves like Indiana Jones, and he's in the quest for all of these things. But it's a whole bunch of stuff that happened on the journey to getting the goblet of gold. There's a process. Like you said, there's a whole process. But I'm just focusing on the gold. Like, I should be like a genie in a bottle and wake up and then there it is. That's not how it works. And then coming to the realization for myself that I have to just start where I am and deliver where I am. And then the Lord will add increase. He'll add opportunities. He'll add provision. Things will be added. But I'm not going to tell you that I have already perfected that. I have not. I haven't. I'm still on the journey. And I believe there are some things that we will forever be on a lifelong journey with. I realize that I will be on a lifelong journey of working on weight and exercise and how I feel in my body. That is a lifelong journey for me. I am not going to wake up without having gone to the gym, eating the right foods, doing the right thing. But it wasn't for the perfect size 12. For me, it became that I am just healthy, that I could walk a couple of flights of stairs, not couple, 5 or 6 flights of stairs, and not feel like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Yeah, I'm going to be winded. Who isn't winded? But I can't compare myself to that little young girl over there who can zip up like she's Sha'Carri Richardson. Well, that's what Sha'Carri worked for.
And then Shikari is maybe 120, 130.
Sha'Carri bad though. That's a bad girl. I love you, Sha'Carri. I love you, girl. I'm so proud of you because her quest for perfection was what she needed, right? It's what she had to do that. So here we go, motivators. Here's some tips. The first thing that I had to come to do, or that I am doing, is trusting the process, but also trusting my faith that God can and will do it for me. If he gave it to me, he's going to do it. I have to trust that. I got to trust that God will be God in all areas of my life. And I got to give glory and celebrate where I am. That's a whole show within itself. Celebrating your wins, celebrating your successes, celebrating you. I don't celebrate me well. It goes back to wanting to please people.
Okay.
But I've changed that. I celebrate me. I go and have a charcuterie and enjoy it and say, Chantanell, you did well in work. You've done well with, your weight loss journey, your health journey, your exercise journey. You've done well on where you are in this business. You have accomplished the speaking engagements and sharing motivational journal living and journaling through the senses. You've done that. So let's celebrate the wins. Let's celebrate that somebody found you and said, I want you to share, that didn't know you, that sat in a class and said, I like it. Can you come do it with me and my friends? Or can you come do it with this group of women? I have to celebrate those things. It's not like that shouldn't be celebrated. But I had a hard time celebrating me, that people wouldn't receive me, that people would not celebrate me. But guess what? Even if somebody else doesn't, I have to celebrate me. I have to find worth and find greatness is inside of me that is worthy to be celebrated, if by no one else but myself, no one else but my tribe, no one else but my village. It's okay. A friend of mine said, "Girl, you asking for a whole lot." Jesus wasn't even received in his home country, his hometown, when he came back. They killed him just 7 days earlier. They was welcoming him in. 7 days later, they was killing him. Let's not get caught up in what other people think of you. Again, that's that people pleasing that I am really mindful of. And then realizing when you are ready. Some things you just may not, though you have it, you're just not ready for it. Like I think if the Lord gave me $10 million today, what would I do? But I go back to, if somebody asked me about $10 million, could I tell them what I would do with it? So you got to get ready. I have to get ready. Now I'm ready for the investment. I am. I'm ready for the investment.
You got it all.
Yeah,
You got the list. You got the list.
I'm got the list. I'm ready. I'm ready for that $10 million conference. I'm ready to be on the stage with other women who probably, it's okay to be a little bit intimidated by people's success, but I really want to have success for myself. And being okay with success and being okay with being favored by God. It's okay. And being okay with being Chantanell. Striving for perfection meant that I wasn't okay with me. So now that I'm okay with me, that I'm good with her, I'm doing the things that I know I can do in the timing of God. And God will make everything right. So this is what I want to tell the motivators. Write it down. Absolutely. Write it down. That's just a given. Write it down. But don't be so hard on yourself if you don't accomplish 1 through 10 in 10 days. Celebrate yourself that you accomplish 2 things. Celebrate when you've accomplished 5. Definitely celebrate when you have accomplished 10, because you did it. And here's the thing. Here's the proof, y'all. I'm doing it. I'm hosting the podcast. I'm right here with you. I'm here. But I did stop. I did get stagnant. I wasn't consistent. I was all of those things that they tell you not to do, not to be. I did those things. But I decided that I was not going to strive for perfection. I was going to strive and just do what I know to do. And that was show up for myself, be real, be authentic, and trust that if only one person, and that would be my mama, if one person listened to the podcast, guess what? Somebody got something out of it.
That's good. Because I think, especially when it comes to like content creation and in the Christian space, that's a real thing. Like we're like, no, I want it to be so when it comes to like Christian content creators,
Mm-hmm.
there it's like what I've seen and what I do. I've seen it either they go on one side of the spectrum or then they go on the opposite side. Like on one side, they're like, it has to be perfect, it has to be perfect, it has to be perfect. Or you have the people, it's like, I don't care what it looks like. We need a happy video.
But guess what? The person who cares what it don't look like, they getting just as much views, just as many likes as the person who's working for it to be perfect.
Yeah, but I personally have this thing where I just feel like if we're gonna represent Christ, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be excellent.
Oh, there's a difference from excellence and perfection.
Absolutely,
And but what here's the thing, until you know the difference,
well, yeah, that's
the excellence is I've given you my godly best.
yes,
I've given you my godly best. And my godly best, and here's the thing. So the person who doing over here that's hood, was that their godly best? To them it was.
I'm not even talking about the good person. I'm talking about the people that can do better. They just don't want to.
No, see that now that's disobedience and laziness. That's disobedience and laziness, and there's also a little bit of trickery in
Yeah.
it, right? So excellence is different. Excellence is knowing where you are, whose you are, and giving God's best in that moment.
Mhm.
And that's it. That's what I had to get to. My best is what God has given me,
Mhm.
and that's excellent.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Now, if I but here's where we miss it. When we stop doing God's best and start doing what man's best, the expectation of man's best, then we all off track.
Yeah,
Then we
because
all off
now
track.
we're looking at other people.
We are, and I think I think we will always compare ourselves.
Talk in the mic.
Do I think that people will always compare themselves?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that as humans, that's something that we'll always be dealing with. But I do believe that if God has called us to a thing, and if God has told us to do something, that we can't like get consumed with what other people can do. Like looking at somebody and be like, oh, she's doing this, this, and this is one thing. But when you're consumed by it, like just like take you for instance, when you were consumed by what Kirk Franklin was doing,
Yes.
which is wild to me because that is a very specific thing, right? Out of all the podcasts on YouTube or wherever, you was like, no, I need to be like Kirk Franklin, which is
Well, here's the
okay.
thing. Not only Kurt Franklin, it was tons of people. Like I had to still literally wanting to be a podcaster and podcast and then go and be looking like who else am I looking at? So I'm listening to Kurt Franklin's podcast. I'm listening to Jill Scott and her friends podcast.
So you're looking at a lot of celebrity podcasts.
Right.
Okay.
So because I'm thinking, here's I'm a person who says, is there a pictorial representation that I could have?
Okay.
Right. So that probably would say, girl, you don't have faith then, because faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. You seeing with your eye.
Let me just can we just give me like 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
Looking at somebody else's podcast doesn't mean that she didn't have faith. No more than means that she's human. Because
Right.
if you say that you don't look at somebody else's stuff that's doing what you're doing on a higher level, I got questions.
Right.
Number one, I got questions. But also, I think that we be over spiritualizing stuff sometimes.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at Rachel Rogers' podcast on
I don't know who
finance,
Rachel is.
and I may have the name wrong, but like I'm pulling up my podcast now. Of
Mhm.
course, Kurt Franklin's is there. So I literally stopped. Love Tim Ross. Love the basement. Bought the
Tim
book.
Ross is my guy.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, Tim Ross started in the basement, and now he has all of these things. I couldn't keep comparing myself to that.
But Tim Ross also, so for those that don't know who Tim Ross is, he used to be a pastor, but now he's a full time content creator and podcaster. But Tim Ross, he get like the guys that produce his podcast, he pays them annually,
Mm.
so they don't have to do anything else.
Mm.
So that means that Tim Ross got a bag.
Yeah, he got a bag.
He has a certain amount of a bag.
Mm-hmm.
If you can pay a whole team to just work for you, right? And so I think that sometimes we get so caught up in what other people are doing, especially if they're doing it on a higher level, that we don't look at number one, what resources do you have? Do you
Right.
have the same resources? Do you have the same financial
Right.
resources? Do you have the same? Do you have a space, right? Or
Right.
do you have time? Are you doing a 9 to 5 and doing this on the side?
Right.
If so, that's gonna look different for somebody that podcasts full time.
Yeah. So Rachel Rogers is a she has the book Plan Your Life Like a Millionaire. She talks about she's a more like finances.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I was listening to her, I was listening to Kirk, and I was listening to Jill, and I was listening to Tim,
Okay.
right?
So you had a gumbo soup of
I
podcasts this
told
week.
you, I told you, I told you. The podcast, the Motivate Her podcast is a gumbo. You're gonna find some sausage, you're gonna find some shrimp,
Oh
you're
my.
gonna find, let me see,
Okay, let's
sausage,
not talk
shrimp,
about
all that.
gumbo because I need to call my dad and
Yeah,
tell him I want to buy
right.
gumbo.
So I told you it's gonna be. So I'm listening to a myriad of different people, and I'm not gonna say I didn't listen to local podcasts. I did. I did listen to those. But what was really catching me was the diet. I can say It was a dialogue and conversation that Kirk Franklin was having with his guest, right? It was the information that Rachel was putting out to her guest. It was Jill and her crew. It was her and her girls. Those were the things that were pulling me in. It was Tim Ross having authentic, real conversations for real people going through real things. So I wanted to be put all of that together, and then you have the Motivate Her podcast.
And so here's the thing, you can absolutely do that in your own way.
I had to get to what you just said, in your
Yes,
own way.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
in that, I had to get out of my way
Yeah,
and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to talk about it. And we're going to be real. We're going to be authentic. We'll have tips. We'll have all of those things and be okay with the final product.
yeah.
And guess what? Will it be perfect? Absolutely not.
No, it's not gonna be, because it's not supposed to be.
And here, but how many people are living in this world because they want to be perfect?
Oh, a lot, a lot.
And I have been in that class. I've been in that school. Like, I have graduated from first grade to 12th grade and still went to college with the whole thing of wanting to be perfect in everything. And then getting to a point of saying, Chantanell, it's never going to be perfect. But that does not mean you do not do it. That's where the loss in the sauce was. I did not do anything. So I'm talking to the person who's saying, in my quest of being perfect, you're doing nothing.
And
Stop.
that's a problem.
That's the problem.
But before you go on, can I just say, like, as a producer, the fact that you researched podcasts before coming here today, like the fact that you've just been researching podcasts, that makes me happy.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me happy because, and I tell clients that all the time, be like, research different types of podcasts because you'll find out what you like and what you don't
Mm-hmm.
like, how you want to sound, how you don't want to sound. And it's not that you're trying to bite off the other podcast. Like, if you've never done this before, you don't know.
No.
You don't know what you want
No.
to sound like. You don't know what format, because there's so many formats. So we have the format like me and you. Like, I'm piggybacking off of
Right.
what you're saying. Da
Right.
da da da. We have, so I'm a podcast host and a podcast producer, guys. So I
Right.
have my own podcast
Right.
with my friend Tiffany called Dear Christian Black Girl.
Right.
That's straight virtual, so we're never in the same space,
Right.
and so it's always virtual. So you have virtual podcasts. You have where you have like Kurt Franklin. He has guests every week or however often he does it. So they're different, but you're not gonna know that if you don't do the research.
Oh, yeah. I was researching.
It's just that you can't get lost in the research.
And here's right. You cannot be like the Nutty Professor. Right? And that's where I was, like the Nutty Professor. You in there, let me get the secret to my sauce, and let me look at this, let me look at that person, and blah 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 blah. And this what Jill and her girls were doing, and I want to do that with my girls. And then I want to have tips like Rachel, and I want to do conversation like Kirk, and then I want to come over here, and then I'm listening to people who are hosting. It's more than one person on the podcast, where you get in, where you fit in, all of those types of things. I done got like the Nutty Professor. I done like drank the juice, and now I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
So if I could just coach you a little bit. So after you do the research, and this is just for anybody, after you do the research, you find out what your voice sounds like in the middle of all that.
So let's talk about the voice. How you show up, how you speak, and how you respond are three distinct different things.
Absolutely.
But the key word is you,
Yes.
me. I gotta be me. I will never be Kurt Franklin, not a day in my life.
You can never.
I could never. God only made one. I could never be Rachel Rogers. But I do want Rachel Rogers. I do want Kurt Franklin. I do want Jill Scott. I do want Tamron Hall. I would like to have them on the podcast.
That would be dope.
And I will have them on the podcast in Jesus' name, because I believe in that. But guess what? Kirk don't want to hear Kirk interview Kirk. Tamron don't want Tamron interviewing Tamron. So once I had to get that, the revelation became real in almost every area of my life.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my mentors is saying to me now, I don't know what's wrong with you. You I'm gonna have to get you, cause I don't know what's wrong with you. The revelation is I got to be Chantanell.
Yeah,
Now, do I respect everybody? Absolutely.
for sure.
Respect is you gonna find respect and loyalty in my DNA. That's who I am. I'm gonna respect you. I'm gonna and I'm loyal. Sometimes loyal to a fault. But what I realized is I'm turning 50 next year, y'all. I got more life behind me than I do ahead of me.
Absolutely.
And I got more living of life to do. And I cannot do it making sure that I'm perfect for everybody and I'm not perfect for myself. So that's when we talk about the quest for perfection. For me, it doesn't happen. I'm never going to have that perfect size 12 body. Never. Because what my idea of perfection and what somebody else's idea of perfection is something else. But what I will tell you is that every time you see me, I'm cute. I'm pretty.
Absolutely. So we talk about you on the Christian Black Girl a lot because we be like, Chantanell is the fanciest person we know.
But how, was I always fancy? Absolutely not. When I get you on here with my girls, they will tell you a story of like, what do you have on? What are you doing? I wasn't always that. I'm showing up now as who I am and who I like. I didn't always like me. So I would put on things that people thought I should put on. I would wear what people thought I should wear. But now, if I want to put on a pair of Lululemon leggings and a pair of Vans and a shirt that says, "Today is a good day to leave me alone," I'm cute in it.
Absolutely.
I am slaying the people.
Absolutely.
I look good at a size 16W right now in everything that I put on.
Absolutely.
And guess what? You may not like it, but I do.
And I think that's all that is.
That but it took me a long time to get to that. All that matters is what I like. It took me a very long time. It took me a long time to wear some things that people said that I should not be wearing because I'm a 16. But just because, and I'm a firm believer, just because they make it don't mean you need to put it on. But I'm a firm believer that if it looks good on me and I don't have, and I'm not offensive to people, because there are some things that people put on that's offensive, that I'm not offensive to you, that I could walk in the room with my pastor, my mother, my grandmother, my husband, and my friends, I'm okay.
Absolutely.
You may say that don't look good on you. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. I got somebody who said to me, "I like your hair like you wore it before. I don't like it like that." Guess what?
You ain't paid for it either.
You did not pay this Asia coin. I did. And I clip it in and I like it. I didn't like my hair before. I didn't. I looked good. I made it look good, but I didn't like it.
Right.
And so that's the thing. I can't be perfect for everybody. I can only be, and I think that's the thing about being a Christian. Christ is not looking for anybody that's perfect. He's looking,
He's not gonna find it.
right. He's still looking for a church that's without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. So that means we're going to have a wrinkle, we're going to have a spot, and we're going to have a blemish. But it's because of the blood that cleanses it. It's the blood that makes it better. All of those things. So I had to stop walking in, I'm not good enough. I had to stop walking in, let me get perfect before I do anything. No. And I'm going to wrap it up because I want to think like this. So for a long time, I sat in my job thinking, I could not be a director of sales. And I let people tell me I could not be a director of sales because I did not know this, this, and this. Right? And I'm going to send this man a gift sooner than later. And I owe him one. So I left a hotel that I wanted to be a director of sales at, sat for 10 years with the hope that they would look at me and make me the director of sales. I learned everything that I could learn. When there were no directors of sales, I stood up and did the role, and they brought other people in. And that's their business. Then they brought somebody in who, when given the opportunity, I want to tell her thank you for treating me nasty. Because her treating me nasty and treating me mean made me learn some things that I didn't have to learn. Right? Follow me, y'all. So once I learned those things that she said I had to learn, those were the things that helped me get to the next level. So when I left that job, I left the industry altogether. Someone called me to come back. I came back, and I ran into another difficult director. And a friend of mine who was working in the same place with me said, well, I think it's because you know just as much as him. And I'm looking like, huh? But I'm not a director. You know what I mean? I've never been a director. I'm a senior sales manager. But I wanted to be a director. And this guy called me and said, I want you to come, I want you to interview for this role. And I said, well, hey, I've never been a director. He said, let me tell, and I said, and people have been telling me that because I'm a Smurf manager, and Smurf is not blue people, it stands for social military education religious fraternal. So most people think that a Smurf off the street, is that somebody with little blue people? No, it's an acronym for social military education religious and fraternal. So those are the segments that you work. And I told him that I'd only been a Smurf sales manager, Smurf senior sales manager. He said, and you've done a great job at it. And he said, but I need you to come and take the role of a director and not maybe the most favorable location. But once you get it on your name, they can never take it away. It's like that whole Ike and Tina thing. I just want the name. He can have all everything else, but leave me the name, right? It was that. Never met him. Didn't interview with him but one time. I did what he told me to do. Now I'm director at a very beautiful hotel in prime location, learning it. But what I wanted to say is some things you don't learn until you get into the role. So I would never know what it took to be a director because I hadn't had the opportunity to sit in the seat to be a director. I would never know what it is to host a podcast until I sat in front of the camera and say, welcome to the Motivate Her Podcast. I'm Chantanell Grayer, your host and the owner of Motivational Journal Living. But those things are all real.
Like you just did every single time. That was amazing.
Every single time? Every single time. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, listen, motivators, I don't want you to be motivated to be perfect. I want you to be motivated to be authentic. I want you to be motivated to be you in every area of your life. I want you to be motivated to show up as you. And don't be afraid of who you are. Don't be afraid of how people may or may not receive you. I just want you to be motivated to live your best life as you please. Don't be offensive to people. And we can talk about offense later on. When I say offensive, don't walk up cussing nobody out, acting like you better than the rest, all of those different things. Just be you. Be who God has created you to be. You're the masterpiece. You're the prize. Don't be arrogant. Don't be self-righteous. But be self-assured. Be confident. This one thing that I know is that I've been confident in the things of God. Have I always been? Absolutely not. But once I started getting that confidence about myself, a lot of things changed for me. I saw things a little differently. I walked away from a lot of things. I started to do a lot of things that I probably would never have done. I said yes to some things that I would always say no to, because not that I'm striving for perfection, I'm just striving to become a better Chantanell, so that when I'm dead and gone, and technology is technology, somebody may run across this podcast and say, you know what? I saw a lady who said, I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be me. And then show up in God's best. And that is the excellence of who I am. But you got to know what God's best for you is. And you got to know when you are operating in God's best for your life. So that's it. Thank you. And until next time, you can find me on all the social media platforms, the Motivate Her Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Motivational Journal Living. My website is www.motivationaljl.com. And that's it. Have a good one. Bye. Oh, subscribe. Somewhere you'll see it. I think the producer will have it posted. Subscribe. Remember, tell three friends and they tell three friends and they tell three friends, because we're trying to get above 9. All right. Thank y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.